are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the Fostering Success Michigan Life Skills webinar series. This is our Life Domains webinar series. This is our Life Skills webinar. We're so happy that you have joined us today. Thanks for taking time out of your afternoon. We have an excellent webinar planned for you today and are just very excited to dive into life skills and all of the great resources that we have to share. Today's webinar is going to be focused on the life domain of life skills. My name is Maddy Day, and I am the Director of Outreach and Training with the Center for Fostering Success at Western Michigan University, and I have the great privilege of overseeing the Fostering Success Michigan statewide initiative. A few housekeeping things before we get started. All attendees will be in listen-only mode. Please feel free to use the chat or questions feature on your sidebar for any questions that you may have during the broadcast. We will be taking your questions down throughout the broadcast, and we'll be sure to make time at the end of the broadcast to answer those questions. If we're not able to answer those questions, we'll be sure to send those answers out in a follow-up email to everyone who's registered for this webinar. If you have any technical difficulties, please feel free to contact the Citrix team at the numbers that you see on your screen right now. Of course, the webinar recording will be available as soon as the webinar is complete on our resource library on the FosteringSuccessMichigan.com website. I would like to say a very special welcome to our guests and experts today. We have Crystal Hughes, Whitney Johnson, and Mona Guyton, all joining us as MYOI coordinators from across the state of Michigan. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
We're super excited to have these three amazing workers today, and they're going to share a lot about the special work that they're doing with their MYOI Youth Boards in just a minute. So let's dive in. The life skills domain is one of the life skills that we have in this under the Casey Family Program's seven life domains framework. This webinar today is a great webinar for students, professionals, and supportive adults. Our goal is to provide you a brief overview of the 7 life domains by Casey Family Programs, provide you an overview specifically and really kind of a deep dive into the life skills domain and why this domain is important to long-term success for our young adults with experience in foster care. And we're going to highlight some of the really exciting work happening across the state of Michigan to support the development of life skills for our students from foster care. This webinar is going to be very resource rich. We will have lots of resources, and we want to be sure that you all know that, of course, as always, we will include these resources on our website, so no need to kind of furiously write them down as you're hearing them. We'll be sure to capture them for you and send them out after the webinar is complete. So let's get started. As I mentioned, the 7 life domains is a framework that is really coming from the Casey Family Programs It's My Life framework, which is a larger work of research that Casey Family Programs did in the early 2000s. Western Michigan University has adapted this framework to provide the life domain of education at the center. So you see here in this visual that we have the 6 life domains that are organized around the education life domain. The 7 Life Domains framework really works to help students, professionals, and supportive adults really organize, understand, and prioritize issues that arise both in challenge and thriving, and really respond in a way that's holistic to the complexity of the lived experience for a young person that is both in or has experienced foster care. The life skills domain is a specific domain that we see that really impacts the success in all of the other life domains. Of course, the life domains are very interactive and interdependent in how they work. However, the life skills domain is one that is very necessary to access success in the other life skills domain. Often we see that young adults with experience in foster care have fewer opportunities to develop skills in the life skills domain. One of the reasons that we see this is often due to something that we call family privilege, and that really is the opportunity to be exposed and try and practice different life skills with consistent family support. These are skills that, often we don't necessarily think about, things that can be maybe as simple as, how to ask for help is one that we see often, how to prioritize when you're experiencing overwhelm, and then even, some more concrete things, how to shop on a budget, how to balance a checkbook, how to make plans for the future, ensure that, all of the things that come into play from finances to health to housing are attended to. So when we talk about the life skills domain, the skills that we're speaking to are very broad, but very, very essential that our young adults are really provided concrete opportunities where they're supported to try and learn life skills. So again, life skills are really this ability to navigate through everyday living. Some of the things that we see in particular that become challenges as young people are making their way through the education to career pipeline are things around proactive problem solving, time management, healthy eating habits, managing health and hygiene, managing mental health issues, and really just being able to navigate all of the various spaces where they may be interacting. As young people make their way into college, into post-secondary spaces, they're often being asked to navigate their personal life, their school life, sometimes a work life, and balancing all of those things really requires some quite sophisticated life skills, and so that's really why we focus so heavily on this domain and are really taking time out to hear the variety of ways that we can provide resources and support to our young people as they develop skills in this domain. One of the amazing resources that we have here in Michigan is the Michigan Youth Opportunities Initiative. I can say personally, some of my favorite people to work with in this field are MYOI, as we call it, MYOI coordinators. And the goal of MYOI is really to ensure that young people from foster care have successful outcomes in housing, education, employment, and just really lifelong success. The way that MYOI has been implemented in Michigan is through youth boards that serve as leadership and advocacy outlets for young people with experience in foster care. These youth boards now cover almost all of the counties in Michigan, so they're just a tremendous resource for any young people out there who, maybe in foster care in those ages of 14 to 21, and seeking to really engage in opportunities that will help them as they move really into that more interdependent adulthood. So that's my brief overview of MYOI. Fortunately, I have 3 experts on the line who do this work day in, day out. I believe almost all of them, if not all of them, have been actually doing this work since Fostering Success Michigan began in 2012. And so we've definitely had the opportunity to work with each of these coordinators and their youth. And I can tell you that young people who are involved with MYOI, we see them grow, we see them thrive, and they really become such strong leaders and advocates and so successful in their interdependent young adulthood through the support that I really believe is so uniquely offered through MYOI. So with that, I'm going to bring our experts on board, and I'm going to ask each of them to tell us about the work that they do with MYOI Youth Boards, and their youth boards in particular, and how their projects and programs support the development of life skills. So Crystal, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so my youth board, I cover 2 counties actually, St. Joe and Cass County, and so our youth board, basically we use that as a way to speak all together, identify like any training needs that they might have, I identify outreach projects, like things they can volunteer to do in their communities, because we want to try to give a positive light on children who've experienced foster care, especially adolescents. We do a lot of speaking in our youth board to try to get everyone comfortable with speaking about themselves, and then those obviously who have stronger skills, I ask them to go to various agencies and community partners around and speak about their experience in MYOI. So that's what we do, mostly what my youth board does.
Awesome. And Whitney, how about you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Similar to Crystal, we do a lot of different things. Here in Bay County, I have a lot of older youth, and so employment is very important here because a lot of our young people need to be able to work to, survive out there. So every year I do an employment boot camp, which is a 4-day event that I put on because a lot of our young people don't have interview skills like they should. So I bring in some professionals from Saginaw Valley State University, and we do some mock interviewing, and then we go through some seminars just to help the youth understand the ins and outs of interviewing. We do tons of different things with employment, tons of different things as far as housing and entrepreneurship and mental health awareness. So we kind of go all across the board.
That's awesome. And Mona, how about you?
All right, so as far as for Kent County, my youth are heavily involved in advocating for other foster youth. So I have many youth who serve on various committees, such as the Health Advisory Resource Team, the LGBTQ Worth Committee, as well as the Trauma Committee. We also have asset trainings provided to my youth each month from various professionals. A lot of us coordinators, we have multiple community partners. So for Kent County, I'm partnered with the Employment Group as well as Michigan State University Extension. So there's a multitude of services that's provided that I'm sure the other two coordinators will agree that's provided to our youth each month in the hopes of having a healthy transition into adulthood. But one of the main programs that I'm really proud of, this is actually going to be the 3rd year, is a healthy nutrition program called We Are What We Eat. It is a supplemental program, part of Kent County MYOI, and it was developed based off of feedback from my youth who wanted to learn more about healthy eating and nutrition. And so the way the program works is youth learn about healthy eating and nutrition. They also learn, they exercise, and they do hands-on learning. So the first week, youth meet with a healthy nutrition trainer. It's like a classroom-based type training, and they learn about all the aspects of healthy eating, such as how to read grocery labels when you're shopping, proper food proportions, how certain foods affect your body. And then during the second week, youth meet at the Salvation Army Croc Center to exercise. Now, the exercise portion doesn't have any specific structure, so they're able to use the equipment, go swimming, play basketball, do rock climbing. The main goal is just for the youth to be active. And then the third week, youth meet at the Kent County Health Department, and they cook healthy meals. And it's pretty cool because a lot of my youth are in residential facilities. So when they cook these healthy meals at the training, we're able to sit together family style, and we talk about those foods that we cooked and how healthy it is for our bodies.
Awesome. So I was just taking notes of all of the things that you guys do and completely smiling about the incredible breadth of the work that is happening in MYOI, which, I guess I'm always surprised because I think you guys are always coming up with new and creative and really innovative ways to meet the real-time needs of your young people. So one, I just want to say thank you because I think that you're all amazing and the work that you're doing is really inspiring. I also wanted just to kind of echo some of the things that you all said. So, I heard, Crystal, you talked about, how important really effectively teaching public speaking is, and really effective safe sharing, which is something that, Fostering Success Michigan promotes. And that, you're really wanting your young people to be able to communicate effectively to their community partners so that people have a better understanding about the experience of foster care and also have a better understanding of how anybody in the community really can be a part of improving the lives of young people in foster care. And I just think that advocacy and awareness raising is so tremendous. And so, you know, it's just great to know that your students are really learning some very concrete skills that are going to help them in so many different areas of their life. Whitney, you know, hearing from you about the employment boot camp and that, you know, you're really carving out this time because you're seeing this need. You're seeing the need of young people needing skills for employment because, of course, that's not only one of the goals of, you know, MYOI, but that's also, you know, a huge part of successful young adulthood. And that, you know, by leveraging some of the partners that you have through the local, you know, colleges and universities, and, you know, community partners, that you're really able to provide quite a diverse array of perspectives that they can have on the employment experience and employment readiness. And I just think, you know, of course, that dovetails so much into the work of education, which we'll get into just in a minute, but it's great to see that employment boot camp happening and being available to your young people. And then Mona, you know, I think that, again, the ways that you're integrating with the community and that you're really providing ways for your young people to speak into so many different parts of the community is just tremendous. And then the healthy nutrition program, not only being something that, you know, allows young people to learn really concrete skills of, you know, healthy eating, healthy shopping, healthy cooking. And I appreciate that you mentioned that, you know, for many of these, you know, young adults, they're living in residential placements. So they may not have access regularly to be able to cook for themselves or shop for themselves. But you're also creating a space of community and giving that life skill of, you know, how do you sit down at a table together and, you know, talk with other folks and, you know, like share what you're doing and hear from them. So just really amazing work. Thank you all so much for sharing just quite the array of work that's happening in your youth boards. So our next question that we have here is really how the life skills that you are teaching and, you know, the work that you're doing are related to post-secondary access and success for students from foster care. So again, you know, Crystal, I'll start with you, and, you know, for each of you just to share how you really see the work that happens in your youth boards as promoting students toward their education goals.
Well, one of the things that they wanted across the state was for our youth to partner and create a community partner board. And being in a small rural community, it seems like everyone is always on the same board. So every time you go to a board, so to create a new board and ask people to come to it didn't really make a lot of sense. And so instead, I have gone out to all of the different agency boards in both counties, and I have identified which ones would have similar, not similar meetings, but would have something to offer the youth, and then I've encouraged those relationships and asked those people to come in and train my kids. I don't know everything and I can't teach everything, but someone out there can, and so that's really what I push at these different agencies. And then through that, I've just a multitude of community partners per se, without having an actual community partner board. And so it's networking, and so I'm always pushing the kids, network, 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 because, you know, these people will help you and the skills that you need, but also anything post-secondary, you know, education and employment and nutrition and healthy relationships is a big one that I push over here. Healthy relationships with people in your family, healthy relationships with your peers, and those types of things. So networking.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Well, life skills are related to post-secondary access and success for students with experience in foster care in many ways. MYOI coordinators have many community partners who are experienced in their field of expertise. So when we use professionals to teach and train youth, it helps that youth learn what resources are available in their community, how to access those resources, what to expect in college, how to prepare for college, how to effectively budget their money, as well as many other skills that's going to help prepare that youth for adulthood and independence. And this preparation helps guide the youth in the right direction so that they are well supported and successful in obtaining those necessary assets to support them after foster care, as well as point the youth in that right direction as it relates to completing college and obtaining employment.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me again?
Yes, we can, Maddy.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for carrying on, which is just very indicative of how well you guys are at leading through all sorts of situations. I have no idea what happened. I think we lost our internet connection for a minute. So thank you to the three of you for talking about how the great work that you do to promote post-secondary access and success. Our last question before we have you share a little bit about your resources is what is one thing that attendees can do to improve outcomes for young adults with experience in foster care in the life skills domain? And so I will start again with Crystal.
Well, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I mean, Mona and Whitney really summed this up really great. It's about partnerships. We can't do everything alone. They can't do everything alone. We don't expect them to know and learn everything. They don't expect me to know and learn everything, but we need to look for those people who do. And so finding the experts, connecting to the experts, and teaching them how to look for those experts, I think that is really key in improving those outcomes.
Awesome. I love that. So really expanding that social capital is such a huge, huge life skill for sure. Whitney, how about you?
I totally agree with Crystal with that. I just want to add that I find myself having to kind of just sit back and think of the smaller things and try to make sure that my young people are aware of these little things. And I go back to the point where we moved in an 18-year-old that was in residential placement until she was 18. She was 11 when she went in, and she moved into her apartment and everything was good, and we were very excited for her. And she was in there for a month, and it got cold, and she called me at 9:30 at night, and she asked me if she can turn her heat on. And I was confused because I'm like, well, yes, you can turn your heat on. And she was like, well, how do I do that? So we have to go back to the basics with these young adults, because we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what they were taught and what small things that they don't know. And so I like to sit back and watch my youth and just kind of pick up on little things and just doing things like housing trainings. When you move in, this is how you make sure your gas is on and your electric is on, and make sure you know the company and things like that. And so just the things that we take for granted that we would know, I make it into a training. So I encourage the attendees, just simple things that I would have learned if my mom, just watching my mom or dad do it, like know how to defrost a car. I had a young person that kept pulling over to wipe her windows off her car because she didn't know that there was a defrost button. And when we purchased the car, I didn't know that she didn't know that. So again, just going back down to those basics and teaching these young people smaller things, so that when we do get to bigger things like employment and community partners, they're a little bit more confident about themselves.
I really love what you're saying, Whitney, about not assuming that young people know how to do something, and really making sure that you cover even the smallest things, even just checking in. Hey, do you know how to do that? And that it's not. It doesn't make your youth feel like they're not capable. Rather, it gives them the opportunity, to say, I actually don't know how to do that. Can you help me? And I love what you said about, watching and learning from them about, where the gaps might be, and then using that as the guide for you to build those into a training. I just think that that's just such an excellent way of, remaining student-centered in the work that you do. Mona, how about you? What's one thing maybe that attendees could do to improve outcomes for young adults in the life skills domain?
Okay, I actually have two things.
Okay.
So those two things I feel is for the worker to listen and learn. So in order to help the youth, you need to first listen to them when they relay their struggles. That way you can help them work on those specific obstacles or those barriers that they may have at that time. And then this will in turn help that youth learn how to tackle those obstacles, which will decrease their struggles so that they are successful. Just like Whitney noted, a lot of times we may assume that the youth knows how to do certain things, but they may not. So, you know, if we listen to them, we can help them. The next time they have that problem, they'll know how to do it themselves. And then lastly, workers should continue to learn about the additional resources that are available to support foster youth, because every year there tends to be new programs or new resources that's geared towards helping youth in care. And I feel like for workers, failure to continue learning about all those resources available can hinder that youth, so that that one resource that you decided not to go learn about might be that main resource the youth needs.
Awesome. I'm getting a lot of so true, and that's a great point in the questions box over here. So you guys are obviously sharing some really important information, and I just think the work that you do, your passion for the work that you do, is really exciting us as we think about, you know, this life skills domain, but also hopefully exciting people out there listening as to how they might, you know, pick up some of the ideas that you have, that you shared, and kind of put them into action with the young people that they're working with. So the next thing that we are going to dive into is really our kind of a deeper dive into some of the resources. And so for all of our listeners out there, we asked Crystal, Whitney, and Mona to, you know, really kind of help us identify some of their key resources, and we asked them to narrow it down to 3, and so I'm sure that they have more than that, but these are the 3 that they really felt were important. So they're each going to kind of share a little bit about the 3 that they chose and why they chose them. So Crystal, I'll have you go first.
So the Pregnancy Helpline Center out of Three Rivers, actually I just finished the training with them. We get to go to their facility, so it's a nice break from our normal place of meeting and stuff. And it was a 3-week kind of overview of sex ed, really. And some of the kids get a similar thing in school, but, you know, not only sex ed, but she also does a point on healthy relationships. She does a point on, this is embarrassing, but porn as an addiction. She does a little point on babies and baby development and those kinds of things. And so I just, you know, I really like them, and she's always there to do a new training every 6 months or so. And then Michigan Works, of course, is huge because they have the employment trainings. Looking for my notes, sorry, employment, interviewing skills, resume building, how to complete an application. These are all workshops that they provide, and again, the kids go to that building, and so it's a nice little break from the normal building. And then in the summer, I send referrals to them, and they do a program called YOU, which I believe is Youth Opportunities Unlimited, and they help the kids find summer work. So that's very awesome. And then MSU Extension, I'm very fortunate to have an extension right here in St. Joe County, and they do our nutrition. So nutrition program, healthy eating, reading food labels, how to stretch your food dollars, how to balance food with activities, planning healthy meals. And they also do a little workshops on money management, so it kind of piggybacks off of our financial literacy training that we have to provide, and then housing and tools like that. So those are my 3 favorites.
Awesome. You know, I really love sort of the diversity of the resources that you shared, Crystal. You know, so the Pregnancy Helpline is really about, you know, sort of healthy relationships, you know, healthy sexuality, healthy, you know, bodies, all of that, to employment, you know, with Michigan Works, and then, you know, healthy living and nutrition with MSU Extension. And one thing that I think you said each time was, you know, these are opportunities for your young people to get out into the community and really to see, you know, who else is out there who, like you said earlier, who are the other experts that can help them, you know, learn more about life and, you know, and teach and kind of learn from them. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those.
Welcome.
Okay, and Whitney, we have your resources. So tell us a little bit about the resources that you're sharing with us today.
I am sharing with you our 211 helpline, and this is, I did more of like our county resources, and it's not specific to foster youth in particular, but anyone can access these resources. But the 211 line is basically a line where you can call and ask for anything. If you need help with your rent, you can call 211 and say, hey, I have an eviction, I need help with rent. Is there anywhere that I can find money? And they know exactly where to lead you. They will give you phone numbers and contact information. You can call and ask about health information. You can call and ask about employment opportunities. This 211 line is amazing, and they know everything. So it's a huge resource for our teenagers because sometimes they get themselves in binds, and sometimes I'm not available, or I don't even know the answer. So we sit and call 211 together to find more connections to help with whatever problem that they're having. So it's an awesome line to have. We have the Great Lakes Bay College and Career Resource Center, which is pretty much our education hub, and they provide us, with help with FAFSA, with anything as far as scholarships. They do high school completion courses. They fund a lot of different educational workshops for young people and young mothers and people who have felony records. They provide raffles and just anything related to education. This place has it, and it's amazing. She does special workshops for our MYOI youth in reference to FAFSA, and she gives us different, like a little tote bag with all the scholarship information in different colleges that have life skills coaches on their campuses for foster youth in particular, so that is awesome. And then we have Mid-Michigan Community Action, where we go for any housing needs. They work with us with our young people for low-income housing, because we all know that our young people don't have a lot of money to work with. So they're able to find us really, really, really cheap housing in good areas. So we have young people that have rent starting at $250 and going up to $400 in one-bedroom apartment. So it's kind of cool because typically a one-bedroom apartment costs you about $600, $700 around here. So it's kind of awesome that they get that discount, and they work really hard to find places for our young people to live.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Whitney. I'm like kind of in awe of all of the resources, and thinking about how, you've really tapped into so many great resources just in your own community. And I just want to highlight one of the things that you said that I really love hearing is that you work with your youth to do things like, call 211 together, and that, if you don't know the answer, it's an opportunity for the two of you, to become educated about, what that answer might be. And, I think that really just speaks to a life skill that I think we can all use, which is, how to effectively partner with, both if you're a professional, how do you partner with students? And if you're a student, how do you partner with professionals? And understanding that we always have more to learn, and there's lots of places and spaces where we can tap into those resources and get more education about things. So thank you. All right, Mona, you are last but not least. So if you would tell us a little bit about the resources that you're sharing.
All right, so the first one, HQ, it's Homeless Youth Headquarters, and it's a drop-in center for youth ages 14 to 24. And what I really like about this program is it provides all types of different resources. One of them is education and employment training for the youth who utilize the services at that facility. It also provides community connections to support case management, counseling, and housing, as well as relationship needs for the youth. Also, youth can come to the center, so it's a drop-in center. So they can come to the center, they can do their laundry, they can take showers, they can cook a meal. It's just something that I felt was really needed. I think it's needed in all the communities because, as we know, one of those negative outcomes for youth in care is homelessness. And so it's just something that provides a really good service for youth who are going through that, where they're living house to house. Second resource everyone I'm sure is aware of is just the different college resources. You have the TIP, the Tuition Incentive Program, ETV, Educational Training Voucher, the Fostering Future Scholarship, just all these various educational resources for youth in care. I just think that's very helpful because it's going to help that youth find other ways to pay for their education so they're not going to be in debt once they graduate. And so that's why I really like that resource. And then the third resource, the Kent County Prevention Coalition, it's not specific to foster youth. It's actually for all youth. But I like it because it focuses on preventing drug use and alcohol use from youth. And that's, again, one of those negative outcomes that's suffered by foster youth. So it's a way for youth to get involved with the program. They can actually join different youth groups. They have a once-a-year youth summit that over 1,500 youth attend. And it's just a really good program, and they have a team of people who work with thousands of youth. And so I even have some of my youth involved with that program. So.
Great. So what I love to hear is that as you're thinking about, resources and kind of building skills and, various life skills in the life skills domain, you're really thinking about these outcomes that we see, unfortunately, all too common among our young people that experience foster care, so housing, lack of education and, substance abuse, being things that we see really unfortunately overrepresented for young people that experience foster care. And so for you, building those resources that are specific to addressing some of these things that you see as barriers to long-term success for them. And I do just want to highlight, I always love to highlight any financial resources because I think that often those are the barriers that young people sort of perceive out there to ongoing success. And so thank you for bringing up the Fostering Futures Scholarship, TIP, and ETV. Last month we did a webinar with Jennifer Maurer from Department of Treasury, Student Scholarships and Grants Office, and so we have more information if people are interested in learning about those scholarships and financial resources available for young people from foster care. So thank you so much, Mona. So our last question, as well, and it's really less of a question and more of an opportunity, is for each of our panelists to share their humble brag. And as they're kind of thinking about, what their humble brag is going to be, and really this is the opportunity for each of them to kind of share something about their work that they're excited about, something about their work that they want to share. It could be something about, a success that they've had with a student or partner. But as they're thinking about that, we will also want to remind all of our listeners out there to please send us your questions. You can use the questions feature on the sidebar. We would love to answer any questions that you might have about this work, or for the panelists. You have 3 experts at your disposal here today. So after this, we're going to have time for questions. So be sure that you write those in and we will note those down. All right, so for our experts, for our panelists today, I'm going to start with Crystal for her humble brag.
Well, I'm laughing because you're calling us experts, and I think that's my humble brag, is that what I can do well is find those experts, because I acknowledge and realize that I can't teach everything all the time to everybody. So finding those partnerships and making them excited about being a partner with our youth. And then something that Whitney touched on earlier when she said that she had a youth contact her at like 9-something at night, my phone doesn't go off. I'm available 24/7 to my youth because I recognize that sometimes we might be the only parent figure that they have to ask for something, or in a case of an emergency and those kinds of things. And so I guess my humble brag, these are my kids, and they're important, and meeting their needs are important.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think that, so anytime I meet an MYOI coordinator, that dedication to the young people that they're working with is so clear, and really, you know, that that passion that you have for them extends beyond 9 to 5. You know, this is not a 9 to 5 kind of job. This is something that you all very much, I know, I'm sure, work way more than 40 hours a week. And so I just so appreciate your passion and commitment. So thank you, Crystal. Whitney, how about you? A humble brag.
I was actually laughing too, the humble brag. I do so much, and really, I just sit back and try to think of things that I didn't know. I experienced foster care as a child, and I have that luxury of having that experience and being in foster care and kind of knowing that side of it. And so I just kind of sit back and I try to figure out, at this time in my life, what are things that I didn't know, or what are things that I was struggling with. And I try to keep an open line of communication with my youth. They know that I've been in foster care, and I think they look up to me because of that, and they say, well, she made it. I can make it. I can do this. And as long as I have her by my side, she's not going to let me down, because she knows how that feels, or I don't have to explain this feeling to her because she already knows. And so that's very important to me, my relationships with my youth. And Crystal hit it right on the head. These are my kids. They're my kids, and my phone is always on as well. So not only to the youth, but to the parents, the foster parents that are taking care of these young people, they call me as well, because sometimes they just don't know what to do. But I try to put together whatever I can, whatever that may be, and sometimes it's just on the fly. I will put together a meeting in a week if I have to, if something is really big. So that's all I have.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that's a lot, and thank you so much for sharing. And, you know, I think, so one, thank you for sharing your experience and your ability to share your experience having been in foster care, and how that is such an authentic part of you and your work with your students. And, you know, I think for the rest of us, you know, all of us professionals, being able to learn from our young adults that we work with, and then from our other older peer professionals that have also experienced foster care, and thinking and kind of having that check and balance is so wonderful. And, you know, I see that. I'm going to give a mini humble brag out to Candace and Michael from your youth board, because they, to me, really demonstrate a lot of the great work that you put into developing these authentic relationships with your young people, and they have become such tremendous leaders. And so, you know, I see that so much in the young people that you work with. So, you know, thank you for investing, you know, your own experience in the young people that you work with. And Mona, how about you? Your humble brag and the great work that you're doing.
All right. I just want to say this was one of the questions that was the hardest for me to answer, because it's hard for me to really brag about it. It's just something that I do that I love to do. I love working with my youth. I also keep my phone on every day, 24 hours a day, so they're able to call me whenever, on the weekends, it doesn't matter. But one thing that does make me feel really good is I have a lot of youth who may leave, and they come and go from the group, may move to different counties or whatever, but they still call me just to see how I'm doing. I have some youth who I haven't seen in a year or two, and they'll call me on Thanksgiving, or they'll call me on Christmas to wish me a Merry Christmas. And that's something that just makes me feel good, is the fact that they're still thinking about me, and it makes me feel like I did something really good for them, that they feel that I'm that important to you know, just call me and check up on me, you know. So that's one thing that I feel good about. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love that, and I think, having worked with you over the years, Mona, in, a variety of different spaces and for different activities, I see how you have really invested in your young people, even those who have gone away, who maybe, have moved out of state and come back, and who have gone off to college, that they're still so connected to you, to the youth board, the community that you have built for them. And, that experience of really maintaining those relationships long term, that doesn't always happen, within foster care. And so, it's fantastic that your young people, are still so connected, and I think that comes really from your willingness to, again, invest so much into their lives. And so I just want to brag on all of you, and just say that the work that you all are doing is, every time it's so inspiring. I think that you have left us with, a tremendous amount of resources today. And, I'm really hopeful that for folks out there that are thinking about how they might be able to, better support young people in their communities, that they think about some of the suggestions that you offered, and really, think about even getting young people involved with MYOI. So thank you guys so much. And that actually leads to a question that we have. So one of the questions that was asked was, how do young people find and get involved in these MYOI youth boards? And so I'll throw that out to all of you, and whoever wants to answer, please feel free to let us know.
Well, with my youth, initially, most of my youth were, once I got the foster care workers on board, a lot of my youth came from the foster care workers in the beginning. But then as we've grown, a lot of my youth are coming from foster parents that have had youth in the program before, as well as siblings and peers. So, the kids all kind of know of each other. And so I say here recently, the last group of referrals that I've gotten have come mostly from foster parents, and then the kids themselves, they've had siblings that are now of age, or they know of a peer that went into care, and those kinds of things. So
awesome, thank you. For Mona and Whitney, do you guys want to add anything else to that?
No,
I definitely agree with her. Yep, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, for me though, I do speaking engagements here in Bay County. I do a motivational speaking, and our mostly for our middle schools and high schools, and I go out and talk to the young people about kind of overcoming adversity and making sure they're taking care of themselves. And because at the end of the day, you are all you got, type of deal. But I just kind of get out there, and I've got a lot of referrals from school counselors and other mental health professionals in the community, as well as foster parents and youth that are already on the youth board. So
that's great. Thank you, guys. So another question that we have is about all of these amazing partnerships that you have developed. So the question is, how do you develop these, community-based partnerships? And I think, so each of you talked about different organizations that you have gone out to, and, are including them in some of the trainings and that kind of stuff. So what are some tips if people want to start developing these community partnerships?
This is Crystal. I'll chime in. So a lot of them, like I said, I get because I sit on the different agency boards, and you get a lot of the same people. And then if I say, well, I have this need, they'll say, oh, well, contact so-and-so. But when I got the MSU extension, I'd actually seen a flyer hanging in the DHS office that said nutrition program. It was more for like people who are receiving food benefits. And so I just called the number on that, and I explained to her my role, what I did, and we decided to meet for lunch. And it was about an hour and a half. I explained to her what I did, what I needed, and we were on the go since then.
Awesome. You make it sound so easy, Crystal. Whitney and Mona.
You're not afraid.
Whitney and Mona, do you all want to add any thoughts or how you guys have developed these partnerships?
Yes, this is Mona. Sometimes I just do a cold call. Like, for example, my youth want to learn some of my youth wanted to learn how to swim. So just recently I contacted our YWCA to see about what swimming programs they had, and so I'm going to provide drown proofing to some of the youth in the group. So that's one way, it's just cold calling and finding people, professionals in that expertise.
Awesome. So I think maybe
I totally agree with that.
Yep, go ahead, please. Add more.
I totally agree with that. I'm the brave soul, too, that just calls around to see, what people can kind of offer us. And I also, I kind of pick around with our employees here, because a lot of our employees come from different areas, especially the eligibility specialists here at DHS. And I kind of figure out what they can help us with. So I had a young lady that used to work at the Housing Commission, and she knew all about that Section 8 list. And, for me, it's just getting involved with other people to see how they can help my youth. It's very selfish, but I do it.
So I would say I don't think that that's very selfish at all. I think that you're working all angles, which I love. So our last question for today is, if there was one resource that you would like to see available, that you could offer, and maybe this is a partnership or something for the young people that you work with, what would it be?
I am still struggling to find a good partnership with anything to do with vehicles. Purchasing vehicles, vehicle maintenance. I know there are other counties that have these wonderful partnerships with car dealerships. I personally have not been able to establish one of those, and so that continues to be one of the barriers in my county.
All right. I love that wish list. Okay. Whitney, how about you?
For me, I wish that we had like a better way of helping our youth get their driver's license, because we have, the funds to help pay for their segment ones, but then they have to have all that drive time, and we don't have any cars to allow them to drive in. And foster parents are, kind of hesitant because of the liability. So we find ourselves driving to other counties that have someone that you can pay that would just be willing to drive the youth around, and it sucks because it's like $160 an hour for that. So we pay a lot of money for it, but we can't expect these young people to be independent with no driver's license, and then we can't expect them to get this license if they've never driven the car. They can go in there and take the test at the Secretary of State, but they've never driven a car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where I get frustrated, and I find myself, in one youth, we couldn't even get her eligible for YIT, so I just paid for it out of my own pocket. And so, it's a struggle here for that. We're not a big city, so we don't have a lot of resources in reference to driver's training. So it's on my wish list.
Yeah. Sounds like maybe some mentors who are willing to, maybe some mentors with some older cars who are willing to let some young people drive them around, and while they, maybe do errands on the weekends or something, would be super helpful. All right, Mona, how about you? What is on your wish list?
Housing. Housing is something that continue to struggle with. Is just finding housing, helping my youth get into housing, especially my older ones. There's different resources out there for housing, but not enough. Mm-hmm. So it's very few and far between.
So it sounds like for you, kind of that the life skills there are really kind of navigating and then accessing the housing, and probably part of that goes into making some connections where there may be safe and stable housing that's also affordable for them.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's something that we definitely hear a lot, and something that we will be focusing on in March when we have our Housing Life Domain Month, and really hoping to highlight some innovative solutions that are happening across the state. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you all for sharing with us, really just kind of giving some insight, and just kind of helping us really just to be able to figure out how we can improve the work that we are doing for young people. So I again just want to say thank you so much to Mona and Crystal and Whitney for sharing your expertise. The work that you guys do and that all of the MYOI coordinators do is so fantastic, and we just really value all of your investment in the young people that we serve and our young people with experience in foster care. So just want to say one last thing, that we would love to have your feedback. If you would like us to have some thoughts about anything, if you're looking for some information, some ideas, and looking for where to find that, please let us know. We will always, as always, get this information out to all of you and have this available to you in the email following. Thank you so much, everyone.